Let's come into that particular lesson. So can you tell me what is the background of this lesson? What can be the background? In which context? Because it is an MCQ question. Any type of a question can be asked. We cannot say that this will be the only thing that is going to be asked. Can you tell me what was the background of this lesson? This lesson happens at that point of time. What was the historical background? Can anybody tell us? Was this lesson written during a peacetime or during a wartime?
During the wartime.
So it refers to Franco-Persian War, which was met where Germany has dominated in that particular war. The learned Franco-Prussian, kindly underline. The war period is between 1870 to 1871. Nobody knows if that can be also asked as an MCQ question. So please underline that. So who was the leader of the Persian army? The leader of the Persian army is nothing but Bismarck. Prussia then consisted of what now are the nations of Germany, Poland, and parts of Austria. So that can be a question. Please underline. At the time of this particular lesson, Persia was consisting which of the following countries or which of the modern nations are the part of Prussia at the time of war? It can be given in a twist manner: Germany, Poland, and Australia. Germany, Austria, Poland. Germany, Poland, Austria. So first is Australia, the third one is Austria. These are two different countries. So seeing Germany and Poland, don't tick. Read the stem properly without fail. Okay, read the stem without fail, because the Austria is a different country, Australia is a different country. Sometimes you might be hearing it contains of Germany, Poland. You need not read Austria or Australia, the answer goes wrong. This is a major problem as far as MCQ is concerned. So it is mandatory that you should read the stem properly, not only in English, in all the answer examination. Reading of all the four stems are mandatory. Okay, when I use the term stem, I mean the MCQ options given over there is what I refer as stem. So without reading a stem, please do not answer any question. Kindly underline. In this story, the French district of Alsace and Lorraine. So which are the districts of which comes under in this lesson? So again, an MCQ possibility is there. It refers to Alsace and Lorraine. Sometimes you may be knowing, but at that time it will not come to your head. That is why I am just asking you to underline those words. Are passed into present tense. So this is the some of the MCQ possibilities that come from that introduction which is given in the text. So I started for school very late that morning and was in a great dread of scolding, especially because M. Hamid had said that he would question on participles. So when did France start to school, or did France begin his journey to school early? Any kind of a possibilities can be. So I started for school very late. Who is the I referred here? Okay, the same expression I started for school very late. This is a question. This particular question means that the author is early to school, the author is on time to school, the author is delayed to the school. Which of the option is understood by the expression I started for school very late that morning? What can be the option A, B, or C?
Delay, sir.
C. It shows that he was delayed. And I did not know the first word about them. So what is the them referred there? Them refers to the participles. The them refers to participles. It may be given them refers to participle, them refers to Prussians, Them refers to some people of France, or any kind of an option can come there. So they like this, each line can be a question. Okay, so kindly underline. For a moment, I thought of running away and spending the day out of the doors. It was so warm, so bright. The birds were chirping at the edge of the woods, and in the open field back of the sawmill, the Prussian soldiers were drilling. So, back of dash can be a question. Back of the sawmill, the Prussian soldiers were drilling. What does the word drilling mean? What does the word drilling mean? Drilling here means practicing.
Maths master.
Drilling. What does the word drilling mean? The word drilling means
Doing maths master.
uh, taking rehearsal or practicing for example. So depending upon the options given only, we can choose it. Means they were practicing. Okay, the word drilling means they were practicing. It was all much more tempting than the rule for participle. What does the expression mean by? What does the expression mean that? The expression mean that it motivated France from not going to the school. The expression means that it motivated France not to go to the school. Written? Understood? Children,
Yes.
do you understand what are the different possibilities of MCQ can be coming up? We are just giving you certain samples. So there are 7 or 8 types of MCQs that can be come as a model to you. So when it comes, we will give you each thing practice. For example, asserting and reasoning questions also will be there at some point of time. A statement will be given which among the following or should say A is true, B is false, such kind of a questions also can be expected. We are waiting for the models to come. Okay, for example, France was happy uh, to be at home because so many options are asserted. I mean, cause effect questions can be asked in English also, so please kindly have a view on such questions also. When I passed the town hall here, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. So, wow, where did he observe a large crowd while he was traveling to school? He saw that large crowd in front of a bulletin board. Okay. What was the information that is written in the bulletin board? What was the information that is written on the bulletin board? Who shouted at Hamel? Who shouted at who shouted at who shouted at France? Then, as I hurried by as fast as I could, the blacksmith watcher who was there with the apprentice. Apprentice means a trainee in a particular field is called as an apprentice. Reading the bulletin called after me, "Don't go so fast, Bob. You will get to your school in plenty of time." So that particular expression, "don't go so fast, Bob, you will get to yourself in plenty of time." Here, the speaker of the line means he will get more
Blacksmith.
time to study. He will find no time to study. He does not mean anything. None of the above. Such options can be there. Or what does the figure of speech used in that particular line? Don't go fast, Bob. You will get to your school in plenty of that time. Kindly please underline that particular expression. Who is the speaker of that line? The speaker of the line refers to the blacksmith watcher. Am I right? The blacksmith is the person who spoke those words. Please underline that. I thought he was making fun of me and reached M. Hamel's little garden all out of breath. What was the reaction of Franz? The Franz felt that he was made fun of his blacksmith. May he feel joyful? He feel a sorrow? He feel pathetic? Any kind of four options can feel. He was surprised, or he thought that he was being laughed at by the blacksmith. Underline. Usually, when the school began, there was a great bustle which could be heard out in the street. The opening and closing of the desk, lessons repeated in unison, very loud, with our hands over our ear to understand better, and the teacher great rule rapping on the table. Underline. The opening and closing of the desk, lesson repeated in unison. This statement means, what does that particular statement mean? Or cite examples of differences, etc. can be a question that can be pointed there. But now it was so still, I counted on the commotion to get it to my desk without being seen. Of course, that day everything had to be quiet as a Sunday morning. Through the window, I saw my classmate already in their places and M. Hamel walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. You can imagine how I blushed and how I frightened I was. So I blushed and frightened. Kindly underline, what was the mental status of Franz when he entered inside the class? What was the mental condition of Franz while he was entering into the class? What does the writer mean by the expression blush? What does the writer mean by the expression blushed? But nothing happened. But nothing happened. M. Hamel saw me and said very kindly, "Go to your place quickly, little Franz. We were beginning without you." So we were beginning without you means the M. Hamel was waiting for him. M. Hamel already had begun the class. M. Hamel was teaching while Franz entered the class. None of the above. Any of these three or four options can be coming there. I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Not till then, when I had got a little over my fright, did I see that our teacher had on his beautiful green coat, his shirt, and the little black silk cap, all embroidered, that never would except on inspection and price days. So the color of the coat, please mark. It was a green frilled, underline these expressions. The people can play on the word. Frilled shirt, little black silk cap. Okay. So this can be an MCQ possibility there. M. Hamel was wearing a beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt, and a little black silk. So instead of black, they can give a green cap, which can confuse you in the examination. So please underline, it is black cap itself. You can even get a question like that. All follows little black silk without embroidery. That can be also an option which to distract you. So you should say that it was completely embroidered. It was, the shirt was like this and it was followed by a black silk cap. Underline. Children, now you got the technique of how to pick the MCQs. Children, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Except on inspection and price days. Besides, the whole school seems so strange and solemn. What does the writer mean by the expression soul and strange and solemn? Okay. Find out a word from the above extract which means peace, calmness, etc. Find out a word from the above extract, which means calm, quiet, etc.
Solomon, sir.
But the thing that surprised me most was to see the backbenches that were always empty. The village people sitting quietly like ourselves. Old Hasur with his three-cornered hat, the former mayor. Sorry, something interrupted me in between. Am I audible, children?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Children, am I audible?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Suddenly on hold came.
Sir.
That's why. Okay, fine. So kindly please underline. But the thing that surprised me was to see the old the back benches that were always empty. The village people sitting quietly like ourselves. Old Hasur with a three-cornered hat. Underline the word three-cornered. Sometimes people will play with this number. Three-cornered hat. The hat of the Hosur was four-cornered, five-cornered, etc. Can be a memory question, but still we cannot avoid the possibility. The former postmaster and several other besides. So whom did Francie while he was looking into the back benches can be an MCQ question there. We'll start with the former mayor, former military officer, and several other besides. Can be a wrong distractor to you. Okay. Even very familiarly, you will be forgetting about the postmaster there. So these kinds of distractions might come in your MCQ. For example, I'm giving you four options here. Former mayor, former postmaster, and several others besides them. That was option one. Former class teacher, former head of the school, and several others besides them. The third option that you can play, former mayor, the former something else, and several other besides him. So you should be, the moment you see this particular full expression only, you have to choose. Okay, so don't choose by just reading two words or the last two words of that particular stem. Read the stem thoroughly. It was occupied by the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several other besides. Kindly underline. Everybody looked sad, and Hasud had brought an old primer. What do you mean by an old primer? What do you mean by an old primer? Thumbed at the edges, and he held it open on his knees with his great spectacles lying across the page. What do you mean by the expression thumbed at the edges? Means the thumb finger was there at the edges. It was rolling back. The corner of that particular thing was rolling back. It means that it was clean and quiet. And none of the above. Which option you will take? Which
Rolled.
option you the papers are rolled back. That is the correct answer. So please kindly underline each line. You kindly please underline before answering. What a thunderclap! While I was wondering about it all, M. Hamel mounted his chair and in the same grave and gentle tone which he had used to me said, "My children, this is my last class I shall give you. The order has come from Berlin to reach only German in the school of Alais and Lorraine. The new master comes tomorrow. This is your last French lesson. I want to be very attentive. So, my children, this is the last class. Who is the speaker? Yamamel is the speaker. Why did the speaker say so? Why did the speaker say so? The new master comes tomorrow. This is your last French lesson. I want you to be very attentive. What a thunderclap these words were to be. Oh, the wretches. So what a thunderclap these words to be. That can be, and four MCQs can come from there. Here narrator is appreciating the German government. Here the narrator is criticizing the German. Here it means he is unhappy with the domination of the Germany. Any such possibilities can be there. Always associate the line with the paragraph it is dealing with. Which paragraph it is taking, depending upon it, you deal the meaning of that. Here, the thunderclap refers to, the primary meaning is sadness. It was a great blow to France because he cannot learn his French language anymore. So he is criticizing the authority of the German government to impose the German language on the people of Lorraine and kindly underline. My last French lesson, why I hardly knew how to write. I should never learn anymore. I must stop there then. Oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lessons, for seeking bird's egg and going sliding on the sand. My books that had seemed such a nuisance a while ago, so heavy to carry, my grammar, my history of the saints were old friends now that I couldn't give up. And M. Hamel too, the idea that was going away, that I should never see him again, made me forget all his ruler and his cranky waves he was. So who is the he referred there? The he refers to
Hamil, sir.
M. Hamel. Underline. What does the word Tsar mean here? The word Tsar. The Tsar is a kind of a game played by the boys of that particular period. See, and the next thing, and M. Hamel took the idea that was going away, that I should never see him again, made me forget all about his ruler and his cranky ways. So, what does the author mean by it? The author had a great respect to the teacher. The author developed a kind of what do you mean by sickness towards the teacher, or he became very disappointed with the teacher. The teacher was very happy. So, all the four nominations can come over there. Kindly underline. The author is happy, the teacher is sad. The teacher is happy, the author is sad. Both the teacher and the student are sad. Such kind of questions also you can expect. Poor man, it was in honor of this last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes, and now I understood why the old man of the village was sitting there in the back of the room. It was because they were sorry too that they had not gone to school more. It was their way of thanking. They refers to the village people. They refers to the village people. So, whom does M. Hamel blame for not learning French language? Whom does M. Hamel blame for not learning French language? He blames his parents and himself. How does M. Hamel define French language? So, kindly go through that particular thing. I don't think I given you a way how to dig for MCQ questions. The last 3 pages, can I have Aparna to read? Aparna? I wondered that your parents are not anxious enough to have you learn. Any of the Abarnas, can you read loudly?
Sir, from starting, sir.
No, 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 no. I want your parents were not anxious enough to have you. Your parents were not anxious enough. Page number 5.
Your
Page number 5.
not
Yeah.
Your parents were not anxious enough to have you learn. They preferred to you put to work on farm or at the mills so as to have a little more money. And I have been to blame also. Have I not often sent you to water my flowers instead of learning your lesson? And when I wanted to go fishing, did I not just give you a holiday? Then, from one thing to another, M. Hamel went on to talk of the French language, saying that it was the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical, that we must guard it among us and never forget it. Because when when a people are enslaved as long as they hold fast to their language, it is it is as if they had
Wait,
the
wait, 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 wait. So see, there are some possibilities of there. The M. Hamel urges the people to guard the language because it gives them food, it gives an opportunity to liberate. It is a necessity. Any four options can come. That is an MCQ possibility. Kindly underline. Which was the book he taught after grammar? Then he opened a grammar and read out his lesson. After defining French language, which lesson did he teach? After defining French lesson, which language did he teach? I was amazed to see how well I understood it. Here the word amazed means surprised. Underline. After the grammar, we had a lesson in writing. After the grammar lesson, which lesson was taken next? After the grammar lesson, which lesson was taken next? That day, M. Hamel had a new copies of us written in beautiful round hand. France Alais, France Alais. Kindly underline what you mean by a round hand. Round hand refers to a beautiful calligraphy. What it is been written there, France Alais, France Alais. They looked like little flags floating everywhere in the schoolroom, hung from the road at the top of our desk. You ought to have seen how everyone set to work and how quiet it was. The only sound was the scratching of the pens over the paper. Once some beetles flew in. So underline sometimes which animal flew in or which was a bird which flew in when grammar lessons were taught. Underline. It was the beetles. But nobody paid any attention to them, not even the little ones who worked right on tracing their fish hooks, as if that were the French too. On the roof of the pigeons cooed very low, and I thought to myself, will they make them sing in German? Even the pigeons. Underline who is the they refers to. They refers to the pigeons who sat on the top of the class. I thought to myself, will they make them? Who are the they refers to? They refers to the Germans. They refers to the Germans. Whenever I looked up from my writing, I saw M. Hamel sitting motionless in his chair, gazing first at one thing, then at another. If he wanted to fix his mind just how everything looked in the little school room. Fancy for 40 years. How long did he teach in that school? Underline. How long did M. Hamel teach in that school? Fancy for 40 years he had been there in the same place for this garden outside the window and his class in front of him. Just like that. Only the desk and the benches have been worn smooth. The walnut tree in the garden were taller, and the hope vine that planted himself twined about the windows. So there is no necessary MCQs there. So kindly go through the text once again. Anything to be mentioned there? Any doubts? So let's revise this visually using a kind of a video. Just see this particular video once again. Meanwhile, you can go through the text once again for any doubts in this any part of that particular text. Is the video clear there? Is the visual loading or loaded?
Loading, sir. Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Here is the summary of the story, The Last Lesson, by Alfonso Daudet. Franz, the narrator of the story, was running late for school one day and was worried about getting a dressing down from his teacher, Monsieur Hamel. He had not learned the rules of French participles like Monsieur Hamel had asked him to. As Franz hurried to school, he noticed a crowd in front of the village's bulletin board. Since he was already late for school, Franz did not stop to read the news. When he reached school, Franz could not hear the usual bustling sounds heard at the beginning of a school day. The stillness worried Franz even more, as he had hoped to sleep in unnoticed in the commotion. Franz entered the classroom embarrassed and afraid, but was surprised when Monsieur Hamel kindly asked him to take his seat. It was only after he sat down that Franz noticed that Monsieur Hamel was dressed in clothes that he wore only on important days like inspection or prize days. There was a strange solemnness in the air. What surprised Franz even more was the sight of the villagers occupying the backbenches that would otherwise be empty. As Franz wondered what was happening, Monsieur Hamel informed them in a grave tone that this would be their last French lesson. Since Germany took over Alsace and Lorraine after the war, it had been ordered that only German would be taught in schools now. Franz was shocked by the announcement and realized why the atmosphere was so serious that day. He was filled with regret and wished that he had paid more attention to his studies instead of fooling around. His books no longer felt like a nuisance, and he realized that he would miss the cranky old Monsieur Hamel. Then he heard his name being called out for recitation. Completely unprepared, Franz made several errors as soon as he began, and stood there feeling terribly ashamed. Again, instead of scolding Franz, Monsieur Hamel spoke about the general tendency in the village to put off learning. The Prussians could now mock them for not knowing to speak and write their own language. Monsieur Hamel went on to say how it was not just Franz's fault. Franz's parents were guilty too, for they preferred that he work on a farm or at a mill than attend school. Monsieur Hamel confessed that he himself acted irresponsibly when he gave students holidays so that he himself could go fishing. Monsieur Hamel then spoke about how French was the most clear and logical language and how they must guard the language.
Underline those words, the clearest, the most logical. Sometimes they may play with this particular words. Please underline those words.
By doing so, they would have retained at least one part of their freedom. While they continued with the lessons for the day, Franz found himself paying attention to every word that Monsieur Hamel uttered that day. Monsieur Hamel too taught with a zeal like never before. At one point, Franz looked up from his
That
work.
particular expression, M. Hamel taught with a particular seal. What does that expression mean? It means that he had taught the lesson in a with more commitment and dedication. It means that he was not teaching the class. It means that he was what do you mean by arrogant about his profession? None of the above. Which can be the option there?
A.
Which four of them can be there? Number one, it shows that he had taught the lesson with his full vigor or with full capability. Second, he did not teach the class properly. Third, he was boasting about his achievements. The fourth is none of the above.
Yes, sir.
First one.
Option A, underline. So the word seal is asked there. What does the word seal mean?
Work and saw Monsieur Hamel gazing at everything as if he was trying to make a mental photograph of everything that he could see. It was a deeply emotional moment for Monsieur Hamel to leave behind 40 years of hard work. Even the villagers seemed to be overcome with emotion. Finally, when the lesson ended, Monsieur Hamel stood up to speak, but words were stuck in his throat. He only managed to write Vive la France on the blackboard and dismissed the class with a wave of his hand.
One more question can be M. Hamel dismissed the class by dash. M. Hamel dismissed the class by dash. By waving the hand, by covering his hand, so many options can be there. So kindly underline them. Now in the MCQ question, I mean the Google format, what you are going to receive at 12 o'clock, tentatively might appear like this. Is the screen visible there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Is the questions visible there?
No, sir.
For the last 2 years, where did all the bad news come from? A sample question. Option A, the bulletin board. Option 2, the town hall. Option C, the school. Option D is M. Hamel's house. For the last 2 years, where did all the bad news come from? Who can give me the answer?
A
Sir,
bulletin board.
bulletin board.
A bulletin board. Who asked France not to hurry to school? Old Assur, former mayor, former postmaster, blacksmith watcher.
Blacksmith, sir.
Blacksmith watcher.
Blacksmith and
Blacksmith
watcher.
watcher. What was M. Hamel going to question about France? What was M. Hamel about a question in France? About participles, adjectives, old primer, biba boo boo.
Participle, sir.
About
Participles.
participles.
What was the unusual about I am Hamel dress? Wore a clean cloth, wore a brand new outfit, wore clothes he wore on prize days, wore traditional French clothes, wore clean
Clothes
clothes,
Friday. Friday.
clothes he wore during the prize days. Who sat on the back of the last lesson? Our last lesson, France, Prussians, the village people, the new teacher. Huh?
Village people.
Village
Okay.
people.
What order had come from Berlin? To close the school, teach German in schools of Alsace and Lorraine, to open the new school in Alsace and Lorraine, that M. Hamel would have to leave.
So teach German in
Teach Germany in the
Ah,
schools of
teach
Alliance.
German in schools of Alsace and Lorraine, not with the
Lorraine.
D. Don't select the D option. The M. Hamel would have to leave. That option you should not take. Okay. So this is a sample thing which I have given. This is a kind of questions that you can expect in the coming examination. So coming back to our descriptive kind of a thing, if a kind of a descriptive answers are there, you kindly go through their handouts which were developed by the department to see further clarifications. You can just go through the lesson silently. Is the handout visible there? Is anything
No.
shared on this? No. Please go through that particular lesson. All details. Now it is visible.
Yes, sir.
What does the expression Viva la France mean? Long live France. Long live France. So you can go through that handout also. The word twisted, twined means twisted. What do you mean by the expression worn smooth? Had worn out and became smooth due to overuse. Again, you can go through that question answers. Even though it is a descriptive question answer, there will be some possibilities of an MCQ question. What was the mood in the class when M. Hamel gave his French lesson? When M. Hamel was giving his French lesson, the mood in the classroom was solemn and somber. Underline. Solemn and somber means sad. What had the narrator counted on the end on to the enter the school unnoticed? The narrator had counted on the hustle and bustle that was unusual when the school began in order to enter the unnoticed. He had thought he could depend on the commotions to get to his desk without anybody noticing that he was late for the class. So author was trying to enter the class silently, unnoticed, noticed, none of the above. Silently, unnoticed, noticed, none of the above. Which will be the correct option? Unnoticed, noticed, none of the above. If these are the three options, then which will be the correct answer? Which will be the correct unnoticed? Okay. This is your last French lesson. Who is the speaker and why did the speaker say so? The speaker is M. Hamel. He says so because an order has come from Dash. The order has come from which country?
Berlin.
German.
Berlin, which was the capital of Germany. Okay. So, what were thunderclap? These words were to me. Which were the words that shocked and surprised little Franz? When Franz mounted on the chair and announced that he was there to teach his last French lesson that day, Franz was shocked and surprised. He felt very guilty of deliberately ignoring the learn his native language and suddenly developed a strange fascination for his language and his school. Kindly underline. What change came over little Franz after he heard Emma announce an announcement? Just go through that particular thing. Anything can be a question or which can aid you to assist you to come to the MCQ. Kindly go through it, my dear. Any doubts you can ask at this point of time. I don't say that we have covered all the aspects of the lessons. Especially certain types of new model questions are yet to be arrived. But I just want to cover up in order to start up with something rather than being confused to what to do. Read every paragraph with a WH question in mind. You can just go through that